Hi guys, it's Paul from AECS. Just going to have a brief chat to you today about Jaltest commercial vehicle diagnostics and ATS Scopes. Now, what we're going to show you today quickly is those two working hand in hand to help you with your diagnostics. Jaltest Diagnostics, very in-depth diagnostic database available for wiring diagrams, mechanical data, but of course the scanning function is what people often buy these kinds of tools for, and we want to change the way that you think about diagnostics. Many people only do diagnostics as in reaction to a fault coming up or a light on the dash. If you change that round to a more proactive approach, so scanning the vehicle before you even do any work, or scanner before spanner as we often refer to it, then you might find work that you might not necessarily have realised is required on that vehicle. Think about braking issues, very important, and would need to be highlighted. You wouldn't want to send a vehicle out with brake issues underlying, having been plugged in like this. So it's a very good way of getting a health check of a vehicle, and we encourage all of our customers to scan all of their vehicles when they present at a workshop, just for that reason, so they can see if there are any problems. There may be none, there may be some. So we're going to go into this 2009 Sprinter van. It's our own van. It's just come back from a lengthy trip around the South Island, and there may be faults underlying. I'm going to go straight into the engine module, and we're going to go through a simple test to show you how easy it is for the scope and the scan tool to work in unison together, and how much information you can get really quickly. So I'm going to go into light commercial vehicles. This is obviously a Sprinter van, so light commercial. I'm going to select Mercedes-Benz. I'm going to go to Sprinter as a section. I'm going to shortcut, because there are literally hundreds of Sprinter models. I'm going to type in my search box 313, that's the model. So that's narrowed it down to just 6 or 7 different variants. I know this engine variant is the 646, so I'll select that one. That'll populate a list of modules that are then available for this vehicle, and I can go through a full system scan if I want, and do that proactive approach, scan every module, check for codes, and then you can react appropriately to that. I'm going to go straight for my engine, because I want to show you a little test that we can do with the scope that you might find quite useful. So I'll go into electronic diesel common rail and click connect. It tells me that there are several connection types for this vehicle. I know this to be standard OBD, so nothing too difficult. I click connect. Some commercial vehicles of course have multiple different connectors, and it's important that you pick the right one, because that might mean that the pins that it's trying to talk on, or the communication protocol that it's trying to use, the language of communication, may be different. So we're into my diagnostic menu now. I can run a diagnosis on that ECU, which I'll do very quickly just to show you how easy that is. So it's reading the ECU memory, and it's come back with 2 faults. So exhaust gas pressure sensor and an issue with cylinder 3 glow plug. So I can go from here, I can then go straight to wiring diagrams, system technical data. For now, I want to go in to do a cylinder cut test, which is a common test that people do in a workshop, and I want to show you how easy that is. So I'm just going to go back to that diagnostic menu. Of course, I can clear those errors, look at system data, make parameter changes and configuration file changes. Live data, I can bring up all the live data lines, component actuations. I'm going to do a system check, so a cylinder cutout test. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to pick cylinder 2. Now just before I go any further, I'm just going to cut back to my scope software. Now I've got my scope set up in the background. It's connected simply by two channels. So I've selected channel 1, I've connected to my crankshaft sensor, so you know how easy that is to get to on most models. Channel 2, I've connected to my cylinder 1 injector, so I can use it as a reference. And I'm going to run the scope software in the background while I do a cylinder cut test using Jaltest. and then you can see then on the screen the information come up, and we'll explain briefly about what that is. So I'm going to start the van up now, and then I'll come back to, I'll go back to Jaltest, so we're ready to start the automatic test, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so our engine's now running. The information on the Jaltest tells me to make sure that the engine's fully warmed up, and that you don't do this for too long. That cutting a cylinder permanently can damage an engine. That's true. It's all safety information that you need to take on board. It's telling me that the engine, of course, must be on, and the test is done automatically. So once I start the test running, I'll hear the cylinder being cut. I'm just going to pause my software on the scope. Here the cylinder's been brought back in now. I'm going to turn the engine off so I don't talk over the top of it. So now I've got a measurement of live crankshaft data, so real information from the crankshaft. Of course, the Jaltest has also done a recording in the background. It's telling me that the cylinder cut test is finished. So we'll have a look at it first, and we'll just compare what we've done on the Jaltest compared to what we've done on the scope. It's telling me that during that test it saved a graph. You obviously want some kind of record of what's gone on. So I'm going to have a look at that graph. We can see there the RPM versus injected fuel amount, okay, which is really nice information to have. And you can scan backwards and forwards over the period of that test and have a look. However, when we cut that cylinder, the speed up of the piston in that cylinder, like traveling down the bore, will of course have been different, and you cannot see that on your scan tool data. This is the point where your scan tool information ends, and you then need to go to a scope for more in-depth analysis. As we said before, scanner before spanner. Well, we're now at the point where it's scanner in conjunction with scope. So we're going to have a look at the scope to see what it actually measured, and of course that looks quite different. From this measurement alone, we can now see whether we have equal compressions in all four cylinders. We can see whether the cylinder misfire was static in one cylinder or indeed across several cylinders, whether it's floating around as you might have with fuel or air issues. We've referenced it to cylinder 1 injector, so we can see, obviously we can work out from the firing order which cylinder that is that's problematic. We know because we cut cylinder 2 that it is cylinder 2, but in the real world that information is not so easy to come by. So using a scope like this, you can very quickly pinpoint a problem like that and get straight to the problem. You can then go back to your scan tool to work in conjunction with it to clear those errors and to help you with the wiring diagram which is in the database to find that information out and get you to a diagnosis as quick as possible. We'll talk to you a little bit more in depth about the setup of the scope in a later video, but for now I just want to say thanks for watching. If you'd like to know more about Jaltest diagnostic equipment for commercial vehicles or indeed ATS Scopes, then please feel free to contact us at AECS and we'll only be too happy to speak to you. Bye for now, we'll see you again soon.